All right, you guys just came from the marketing. Several of you came from the personal injury attorney educational sales presentation to us last night. And what you saw, and remember with personal injury, there's two major components to personal injury. One is the documentation. The other one is the marketing. And here's why. You have to know the documentation, because if you don't know the documentation, and let's say you happen to be good at the marketing, then they'll find out real quick that you don't know what you're doing. So you'll initially be able to get business, but real quickly you'll lose it. That's what will happen. If you know the documentation, but don't know the marketing, it'll be very difficult to get business for this one reason. Personal injury attorneys are not looking for chiropractors. And so there's three types of marketing: publicity, advertising, and educational sales. And advertising and publicity doesn't work. You have to know educational sales. In other words, you have to be trained in it. You can't hire somebody just to do advertising for you. It doesn't work. What you saw last night, you saw 54 attorneys that I gave a presentation to. 48 of them signed up for referring their cases to us because of that presentation. 48. How much business was that? That's about $4 million a year. I created $4 million a year last night with one 3-hour presentation, and it was all educational sales. And here's what I did. There's content, and then there's educational sales. And you have to know how to do both. And the reason you have to do educational sales is you have to establish need. Publicity and advertising doesn't. You have to establish need, you have to handle the obstacles, and you have to affect trust. Those are the three things that you have to do in educational sales. So what you saw last night was this. I established need. They didn't even know why they were getting low-ball offers. Did you guys see that? They didn't even know why they were getting low-ball offers. Most of them didn't even know, or what were not even, they'd been in practice 10, 20, 30 years. It never had submitted the number one volume personal injury case. They'd never even submitted it because they were working with doctors who didn't even know how to do it. And so what you saw last night was not only the content, but the content would not have done it. What you saw was the injection of educational sales with the content. And here's what happened. Is I established need in 3 ways. I had a very narrow focus on where I was going to take them, and that was the pleasure. That was the pleasure. The pleasure is the very low motivator, and that was the policy limit award. So that's a pleasure component. Believe it or not, it's a very low motivator. And then there was the pain, and the pain is over 80% of the motivator. It's not the pleasure. It's like the stick and the carrot. If you guys that have kids, you know this. You dangle the carrot, not much happens. So when you pull out the stick is when stuff happens. But it's both. It's the carrot with the stick. So we had the pain, and the pain was the low ball offer. And then we had the logic. The logic, I showed them how to get away from their pain, the low ball offers, step by step, and get toward what they wanted most, the policy limit award. That's how I established need. That's what happened last night. You can only do that with educational sales. You can't do it with advertising. Advertising only affects one of 3 categories. There's 3 major categories in marketing: need, obstacles, and trust. Publicity will only affect trust. Advertising will only affect obstacles and trust. So if you don't know how to establish need, and they're not looking for you, and most of the personal injury attorneys are not, that's why advertising and publicity don't work. But when you do know how to establish need, there's a tremendous amount of business, because the number one injury is the soft tissue injury, and the number one doctor that can treat that is the chiropractor, not the orthopedist, not the neurologist. So there's tremendous upside and potential, but only if you know educational sales. And so what happened last night is you saw me establish need, and then I came in and I eliminated the obstacles. There's 6 major obstacles. And then from there, I went into the 8 service factors. I established need. I went through admit, consequences, personalization. Primary was called a primary pain-based pleasure. Took them away from the primary pain-based motivator. I logically took them through the steps. I eliminated the obstacles, the 6 major obstacles, and then I included the service factors. And that's how 48 out of 54 people of those attorneys signed up to refer their clients, which was worth over $4 million. One 3-hour presentation created over $4 million. And that's how it works. So that's the importance of combining the personal injury documentation with the marketing. They go hand in hand. You have to know both of them. And of course, that's what we teach.